What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Chats Unfiltered. I'm so excited to get this episode out to you guys. We had former AFL player and current CEO of Love Me Love You, the Mental Health Foundation, Lance Piccione, on the show. Damn, it was an eye-opening chat. I was super grateful to have him on. We talked about his time in the AFL system and how he battled through some mental health struggles and what help he had, if there was any. And then also his time after AFL, when I guess you could say shit hit the fan. He battled substance abuse and nearly ended his own life. So it got deep, it got powerful. Something that I think a lot of people can maybe hear and open their eyes to the fact that people are struggling, whether you are talking up or not talking up. You just never know what people are going through. I also shared a few things about my experience with mental health, and yeah, it might be something that you guys can relate to. And I think the ultimate goal for me, especially out of this episode, was just for, even if one person hears this, one person watches this and speaks up, gets some help, or if someone just checks on their mates. It's as simple as asking your mate if they're okay, and if they're not okay, what are you going to do about that? So take some action. Let's break down the stigma. Let's normalize talking up, and let's get into this episode. Hope you enjoy. Lance Piccione, how are you, mate?
Ellie, how are you, mate? Going all right?
Good.
Taking time out, sitting in a park today, so can't complain with life.
I'm loving the background. I've got my room with me, and you're in a park, so you've won up to me, and I'm a bit jealous. But
You don't have your dirty undies on the bed, mate. It's all good. It's all right.
Beautiful. All right, we're gonna get straight into things. Love Me Love You Foundation. It's an amazing thing. Obviously, it's been a massive journey for you. It was founded in 2013. Just tell us a bit about it and how it all began.
Mate, it has been a journey, right? It's everybody has a story to tell, and I'm very fortunate to provide a platform through the foundation. Obviously, going through the background of it, why we started it, obviously through my own experiences living with mental health challenges, substance abuse, and multiple suicide attempts over a period of time, and then I thought, well, there's more to life than what I was doing and how I was going about it. And as I said, the world that I lived in with having played AFL, provided me a bit of a springboard to be able to do things and create more acceptance and acknowledgement for the conversations that needed to be had. So so we started in 2013, and mate, it's been a roller coaster, like everybody's been going through, and it's understanding the journey that it's been. But so every day is a different challenge. We see some positive stories that come out of the work that we do, and we also see the devastation that life causes a lot of people and society. So it's and we go into all different types of organisations and deliver a whole heap of education, training, and support programs to make sure that people are, feeling comfortable enough and safe enough to be able to have the conversation with the people that they need to, and then escalate the service or the support service that they need to where they need it. So, as I said, it's a challenging space. Mental health is still a way to go in terms of our community understanding of mental health and what it does in terms of. But we just sort of got to get back to the point, that fact that everybody has a mental health, and that's what we need to understand. Everyone's on the mental health spectrum, we'll call it. It's just understanding the challenges that come with it, and then being able, as I said, to be able to deliver the framework of self-care and overcoming challenges and overcoming all the different stress impacts of one's life, and being able to sort of be able to get out of bed every day with that spring in your step, hopefully, and work your way through it.
Yeah, exactly right. I think everyone, does have somewhat struggles. A lot more people obviously have a lot more than others. But some facts for you off. Obviously, you guys, Love Me Love You, have a website, and I had a little bit of a look.
Yep.
1 in 4 Australians live with mental illness. 3 in 4 suicides are male. 3 in 4 cases of mental illness starts before the age of 25. 3 in 5 people with mental illness don't seek help. What do these mean to you? If you want to just run through it and sort of, because that is, it's amazing, especially the last one for me, the 3 in 5 people don't seek help. Because it can be
Yeah.
scary. That's just huge to me. Like that needs to change, in my opinion. So yeah, talk us through that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And as I said, that's what the stats that are reported, right? So we're talking about the 1 in 4. It's probably like a more of a 1 in 2 that are sort of being impacted through some level of mental health diagnosis, um, and working through that process. But this, as you said, the scary one there is the 3 in 5, right? So 60% of people that are showing signs and symptoms of a mental health diagnosis don't get the help that they need, and that's the barriers that we have to overcome. So the barriers that look at, the resource, where to go to for support, what does the mental health system look like, acknowledgement of the situation, what is it actually is impacting me, and then it's also that belonging feeling and safety feeling of going, okay, well, I'm going through this. There's changes in my behaviour, whether it be physical or emotional responses, and then understanding where I need to get to and how do I get there. And the problem we have, and our mantra at Love Me Love You is about being never alone. Okay, and it's about understanding how we invest in ourselves, one, but invest in our support services, invest in our crew, in our relationships, whether it be family, friends, at the workplace, being able to invest in them conversations and relationships to be able to make sure that when it hits the fan, right? Because we sort of, it becomes initially it becomes like a little tickle on your face, cruising along, you feel a little tickle, you feel, okay, this is not quite what should be happening. It becomes a bit harder. It starts to feel like a stabbing with a pen in your face sort of thing, and then bang, one day, sort of after a period of time, you feel like you're big smack in the face, and you don't know where to go. And then it's being able to, as I said, I use the word safety a lot, and when I say that, it's about understanding how we feel safest to have these conversations and who to have these conversations with. The mental health system in Australia is, it's not, I wouldn't say it's broken, right? It's just forever evolving, and there's so much demand and need, and there's just the services available to everybody. There's just not enough. Okay. And you can't just breed help and support overnight. Okay, so you can't just go put a plant in and then bang, you've got a support service available to you. So it's depending on where you need to get to, what it is. But what we try to do at the foundation at Love Me Love You is being able to help communities and individuals in their space to be able to understand, okay, what is it that I need to be doing now? What is my preventative focus? How do I self-care, and how do I put the framework around that? How do I make sure that the relationships that I have are more positive than not? And then how do I have those conversations to be able to get to go, I'm not feeling the way I should be and the way I want to be right now, but then how do I get that from that feeling to where I need to get to feel better? Which is a scary one, and we go back on that sort of the male statistic you put there. So 3/4 of suicides that happen in Australia are male. Okay, but a majority of a higher percentage of suicide attempts from the female, or even we talk about gender fluid. Where there's a whole conversation we can go in the LGBTIQ plus conversation there, but it's about understanding, okay, well, as a society, what are we all doing for each other? How are we making it safe enough to have these types of conversations where we need to before shit hits the fan, right?
Yeah,
and that's the thing. We don't want to have to wait until it hits the fan before we have these type of conversations to say, I'm feeling like this. And then it's understanding how we have those check-in services. How do you consistently check in with your people to make sure that you're normalizing the language, normalizing the conversation, normalizing the process to say, okay, I'm feeling a little bit off today. I can just allow myself to say it and be that okay. And we understand that there's a lot of people in this country, man, and even in this world that are alone, like they are fighting it by themselves, and it's not a positive structure to work with. But we understand that different people's lives, are lived differently, right? So the way I interpret things and how I go about it, Bailey, are different to yours. Okay. But it's understanding how I evolve with my structure, how I evolve with my framework, how I evolve with my relationships, and I understand, that, the comparative society that we live in, we always look at what other people are doing and how they're going about it. And we always then feel, there's regrets and bitterness and anger and that I'm not them. Why aren't I them, sort of thing. But it's about how do we focus on the self and make sure that the self is working.
Yeah, definitely. And I think from those stats, the two that link up for me is the 3 and 4 cases start before the age of 25, and the 3 and 5 don't seek help. I think there is a bit of a connection from that, and from my own personal experience. Like when you're young, you just feel so lonely. You don't necessarily think it's the right thing to reach out because you don't know what you're going through. You're just trying to do it alone. What's your advice to the younger age groups, like just to reach out, just do it, because no one should have to really fight it alone. There's always help.
Yeah, most definitely, and there is always help. But as you said, when you're younger, and it's the process of experience, right? So when you're sort of that, we call that 75% of mental health disorders begin before the age of 25, because our brain is constant development. It's, the chemicals are flowing everywhere. You don't know what, this, that, everything else, and understand how do you experience it, and how do you become more mindful. But on the flip side of that, we're in a society now that the youth are more worldly, right? The information that they can understand, or that they've got access to, is much more than when I was in the youth bracket, right? So, and that's a while ago now, but it's being able to access that information, and being able to understand how to filter it. Okay, so what does the personal self filter feel like, look like, and then how do I process it? And as I said, being able to appreciate the conversations that you have with people. If you don't understand something, be able to talk about it. Understand how you're feeling, be able to talk about it. And it's not to say that, as I said, talking for a lot of people, especially when you're younger, is hard. Even when you get older, it's hard. It's always hard to talk about the feelings and the way we go through things. But it's you've got to sort of the advice around that in terms of just saying just do it. It just doesn't work. Okay, as much as we just like to sometimes get people and shake them and say, just talk to me, how, what's going on. But it's just not how it works, because you do feel when you're going through it that you are the only person that's actually dealing with it. You're the only
100%.
person in the world. Yeah, as you speak from experience, Bailey, you feel like the only person's going through it. So how do other people appreciate what that is? I don't want people's sympathy for my situation. I just wanted to have someone there to be able to just to listen, to be able to allow silence. There's actually more word. There's more said in silence than there is actually in the words, right? So, being able to invest in those conversations, those relationships with the people around you, and as I said, as a youth member, there's different ones, right? Because as a teenage boy, the hardest thing to do is actually talk to your mate about what's going on, right?
Yep.
Because there's the fear of judgment, there's a fear of bias, there's a fear of humiliation, embarrassment, all that sort of stuff that comes through it. The fear is the greatest thing, that is the biggest thing that holds us back. Females, on a different level, but still, the conversations that need to be had, there's still the fear of judgment and bias that comes from those conversations. So, but it's, just trying to find at least that one person that you have that trusted bond with, and being able to be understand and being respected, and feel safe enough to have that conversation with that person, and feel like your relationships evolve. Right? They're always evolving, and they're always different. And what you think is who you think is your best mate, come in time over years, they're probably not. Right. So different experience, different situations. But I said just being able to evolve and try and create diversity in your relationships, and diversities in your way you go about things.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, definitely, 100%. And this obviously came from, which we'll now get stuck into, your experience with mental
Yeah.
health. Your
Yep.
foundation, it's some people start it from raw personal experiences, some start it just for the pure good. They just want to help out, they want to do something for.
Yeah. Yep.
Yours goes way back to your AFL playing days and your
Way
struggles.
back.
If you're okay, share the
Yeah.
early days, your battles, your rock
Let's
bottom,
talk
and
about it.
how you overcame it.
Yeah. So we're talking about Bailey. It's my experience has probably started like many others in high school. That social disconnection was my biggest thing, which created a lot of anxiety in how I was going about it, and how I was fitting in, and how I was processing, and how I was behaving, and which is sort of a pretty common story that a lot of youth factor, or a lot of people were having to understand. So working through that. But for me, and like many other people, sports and fitness is usually the way out. Okay, so that's the escape for a lot of people. And I was very lucky that I found footy. And footy was really good to me. And playing footy, I was a pretty good junior coming up, and then obviously being drafted, and then going into your hometown mate of Adelaide. I got drafted to Adelaide Crows when I was 17, and which for many people would think that's the most amazing experience ever to get drafted and whatnot. But for me, as I said, from the social disconnection I had from as a junior going through school, and then going through the fact of getting drafted to Adelaide, to another town where I was then disconnected from family, even though family are there, they're not like just blown off the world. But I didn't have that physical connection with my family, which I rely on heavily, and which a lot of other people do, but I rely on very heavily. So, and my ways of dealing with the anxiety through that, and I just started alcohol. Alcohol became my friend. Instead of footy becoming my escape, going to clubs and pubs, that became my escape. So, which we know that the masking agent that can be, and the devil that it can play. And it did, and that just culminated into sort of manifesting in something so much larger. And then that affected the only thing that I knew I was good at, and that affected my footy. Even through when I was at Hawthorn, from 2000 to 2004, I was on and off the alcohol. Anything stressful come up, any situations come up, I reverted to my old friend alcohol, and worked that way through. And then that's that anxiety levels and ways of dealing through things. Then the alcohol, it culminated into levels of depression.
Yeah.
And this is 20 years ago, right? So the conversations around mental health just wasn't even had. So there's a lack of awareness, lack of resource, lack of understanding, lack of conversation around it. So you just sort of kept rocking it through. Even though I had the right support structures around me, I still didn't feel like I understood it. I didn't understand it myself. So you can't put it in words to be able to express it sometimes. So, and then, so through my whole AFL career, as I said, a combination between alcohol, anxiety and depression. And then in my last year at North Melbourne, mate, I found drugs, and that was the end of me pretty much. So I found that world, and I got into that deep, dark spiral of drugs, and which is a really scary world to be in, and that became my escape. And from my last year at North Melbourne right through to when I was 31, 31, that I was still using and using very regularly, like pretty much every day. So and then multiple suicide attempts over that period of time, and then my last one was on October 28, 2011, and that was it. That was my turning point, and I keep talking about, and I present all over the country now to a whole different types of organisations and people, and I talk about, from the darkest of places we find the brightest of lights. Right, so it's usually, you talk about finding starting organisations such as this, or whatever organisation that or sort of a cause that you're passionate about usually comes from an experience. Okay, there's a lived experience, whether it be yourself or the person that you're supporting or caring for. So, as I said, there's more to what my life was about, and I got my trusted people around me. I'm very lucky that my wife was the most amazing person in the world, who was my first supporter, first conversation around it all. And it allowed me to escalate those conversations where I needed to get to, and got the help that I needed. And I was able to turn my life around really quickly. It took a lot of hard work, mate. And recovery is hard. Mental health recovery is, challenging. Drug recovery, for recovery from substance abuse is, mate, it's the hardest thing that I've ever been through in my life. But I had to keep working and understanding why I was doing it, and I think we talk about it a lot, helping people understand what's your reason why, Bailey. What's your reason why you get out of bed every single day? What's your reason why you go to bed at night? What's the reason why you do everything throughout the day? And understanding the motivation that you need to be able to really hold on to. And my motivation kept coming back to the fact that I just wanted to live, right? And as simple as and corny as that sounds, is that I wanted to live. There was more things in my life that I wanted to do. I wanted to become a father. I think that's the most amazing experience that anyone could go through, to be a parent. Most challenging thing, sorry about that. But it's the most rewarding and amazing experience. I've got two young boys now, Lennox and Alexander, who are 4 and 6. And it's just the most amazing experience. But I think that was the reason why I was able to really hold on strong to get through it all. Just to feel like that was my goal. And then, you keep moving forward, and then we started the organization, when in a time where the mental health conversation was still not really had. Okay. So I had an amazing amount of doubters, people saying, oh, you can't do that. You can't do this, blah, blah. But the people that can't say, the people that want to bring you down, the people that don't want to be along on the journey, and that's fine, and that's their life, and that's how they go about it, And I still get people today that I haven't seen for a long time. They say, "Oh, you're still doing that love me, love you thing?" You're like, yeah, it's not really a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of it's a fully run organization. We got 7 people in our office. We got subcontractors. We provide education training programs to thousands of people every year. We provide support to hundreds and hundreds of people every year, and we save lives, right? So
it's not really a thing anymore. It's a bit more than that.
It's not really a thing, Bailey. It's more than a thing, right? Most businesses or organizations, they flounder after a few years, right? So the fact that we've made it this far, and we're still evolving as an organization, understanding what we do and what we do well and what we shouldn't do. And COVID knocked us. COVID like everyone, right? And you've had your experience with COVID, right? But the COVID experience of the last couple of years and understanding who we are, what we do, we've become really reactive to the system because, mate, like everyone was shitting themselves pretty much. It's like, can't do this, can't do that, can't do this. It became this big victim mentality of society and business. And it was just like, okay, well, all right. But it actually gave us a really good sort of opportunity to think and to work through the impact that we have. And to be able to simplify that approach. And we talk a lot about gratitude, and gratitude is about understanding the opportunities of having and being and doing. Okay. So, the relationships that we have, the work that we have, the impact that we can have, the fact that we still have an opportunity to impact people's lives. But it's more, I bring it back and I talk to the team a lot about the fact that yes, the goal is to impact people's lives in a positive way and to support them through those processes, but understand the flip side of that and the impact that it has on us. This allows me to live. Okay. And I'm not saying this from a financial point of view, all that sort of stuff, but it gives me purpose. Purpose in life is everything, right? So you can find your purpose and your passion. And for me, being able to have the purpose of then feeling that impact so that I can actually do what I talked about before, being a parent, is the best thing in the world. Yes, every day is a challenge. Yes, every day, is a different task, a different stress. But, if you can align your purpose with your agenda, you're going to get to your goals, right? So it's about understanding how that works for you.
Yeah, exactly right. And a big thing that you mentioned, and I was going to ask you about it, is back when you were obviously playing, it sounded like there was no support at all. Like if you came out and said, like, I'm struggling, but there's no one really there. How has that developed that you have seen from an outsider now through the AFL system and even just sporting in general? Like, has there been a big improvement with that help that people can get compared to when you were back in playing days?
Huge improvement. But we're not talking about just sports here, right? So we're talking about society. There's understandings and ways of working it through. So it's when I was at Adelaide, we had a great guy, a bloke called Phil Harper, who was we'll call our welfare person. But he was just a good guy. Like, he structured it, trying to help people understand what they're doing off field, because it's all about actually what you do away from the club that actually helps you improve in your club, right? So it's so working through that. So, but still, the conversations around it just weren't understood. Okay, so you couldn't really talk about the sort of the toxic culture of life back in the day around as I said, not being able to talk about your certain things, harden up, get over it, move through, have a bag of concrete and you'll be fine, sort of thing. But it's out today, the welfare, well-being teams, in sports clubs, right from down from an AFL level or a professional sports level, right through to even local community clubs. There's welfare teams, there's well-being teams, there's people that we can have those supportive conversations around, and they're setting up that sort of positive culture around that to make sure that people feel supported when they do. That goes into businesses, that goes into schools now. In 2022, there's no excuse not to be able to have a mental health conversation. There's no excuse for the lack of understanding or lack of resource or lack of support services that are available, because us as individuals, we have our collective impact by sharing the vulnerabilities, sharing the safe cultures around it, sharing the conversation that need to be had, but then understanding, okay, what is it I'm going to do with it? Okay, so there's a big shift in society, right through from sports to schools to businesses, to be able to make sure that more people are having the type of conversation that they need to. And it's not just talking crap all the time sort of thing. We talk banter a lot, right? So people talk banter a lot, but that's obviously in a general atmosphere of their doing. But as I said, when I bring it back to before, finding those people in your life that you can have those conversations with. Like I have a real trusted network that I check in with, and they check in with me regularly. Someone asked me the other day, does the work that we do get tiring? And it has its moments, because people will always share everything to me, right? And their process, and I get that, and I love that, and I do. But for me, then understanding how do I debrief from those conversations, how do I debrief from those experiences, and then, as I said, I have my trusted network that I do that with. That's my mum, my wife, my sister. I've got a few really solid, strong mates that I deal that with. And as I said about before, about understanding how you evolve with your relationships. Like there's a mate of mine that he's one of my son's mates' dads. We have a really strong relationship. We talk about a whole range of different things and ways we go through it. And I think it's because there's no bias or judgment from those conversations. So it's being able to invest in what that looks like for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think for me, like my side of my journey through a few things is the opposite to you. So you say how family is a massive thing, and it's 100% a huge thing for me. But I felt as if I didn't want to go to mum and dad because I didn't want them to worry about me. I didn't want them to stress about,
feel the burden, right?
Yeah, exactly right. So for me, I went to the Gold Coast a little while ago, and you talk about, meeting those people that you can open up to. I went into this house with these two blokes, two uni students, and it was just this random day where we sat down and we had a book in the middle of our lounge room, and we were all just struggling, going through a few, and we just literally just wrote things down. We just talked about it, and it was just this eye-opening afternoon where we kind of just went like, fuck, like we can actually just talk about these things. And one of the things...
Wow, what an experience.
Yeah, one of the things I wrote was, I am going to open up to my friends, to my family, because... what you don't realize in the moment is people can be going through the exact same thing as you, and it might take you to say something for them to go, man, I have been struggling as well. Let's just talk about it, and it can actually help both sides. So that was sort of my little milestone, which was unreal. So
what an amazing experience, right? To be able to do that, to be able to to feel in a society now that you can actually do that and feel okay with it. And we talk about writing things down a lot. It's about talking to paper, and sometimes you said, conversation to other faces is something that people feel uncomfortable with. But being able to, even if you want to talk to somebody and I want to say the words, write them a letter. Write them something on a note to say, man, this is something I'm dealing with, and then understand how that works through. And then, as you said, that place of acknowledgement, right? So. I might be going through the same thing as you are, but I experience it differently.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going through a similar situation, but I experience it differently. My emotional and physical responses are going to be different to yours, but I can understand, okay, well, this is something that just needs to be talked about. And you said the more you talk about it, it's amazing the amount of people that come back and go, man, I'm dealing with this. I'm going through this. And you said the more we can and that's about normalizing the conversation. The fact that we don't want to make a big event out of something like this. We just need to be able to normalize the conversation to say the fact that, okay, I'm talking about this. Cool. All right. How are we going to process it? How are we going to move forward? Okay. So it's you said you don't need to be big D&Ms and all these sorts of things.
Mm.
It's just about, okay, how do I normalize that process to have that conversation? And then what do I do with it? Because having the conversation, yeah, that's the hardest thing. That first step to have that conversation with somebody is the hardest thing. Had that conversation yet, and then there's that fear of what's my next steps? What am I going to do with this? What are you going to do with this? Are you just going to ignore me for the rest of your life because you don't want to deal with my crap?
Yeah.
But it's been consistently being able to check in and make sure that you get to the right support services available. Those support services don't always have to be a mental health service, right? Don't have to be a psychologist, psychiatrist, don't have to be a counsellor. You have your trusted people in your ways of doing things, and being able to share those experiences together to say, okay, what are the self-care components that I need to be instilling in my life? Whether they be going for a walk, going to the gym, going to, bloody art classes, going blind salsa dancing. I don't really care what it is. You just got to understand what it is for you. And that's what makes it work.
Yeah, exactly right. The last thing about your journey that we're going to just get a little more depth about is 2011. 6 years after retirement. There was an attempt, obviously, to end your life.
Yep.
I'm keen to pick your brain. Like, for your experience, was there a big lead up? Obviously, like you said, with drugs and alcohol, did it all come together and it was kind of just like a moment where you went, "This is it," or did you just wake up one day and go, "Fuck this, I'm done"? Like, what was that?
Man, that interesting experience, Bailey. So, in April of 2011, I was making one of my comebacks to local footy. And on a Thursday night at training, I dislocated and ruptured the patella off the bone. So I had my kneecap halfway out my leg. And, I was a personal trainer at the time, working through that. And then being forced off work. That was sort of taking a hit at my identity, what I was going through. And then in August, late August that year, I had the infection. I had a staph infection through my leg. That come from that operation, and then that was traveling towards my heart. Had to have emergency surgery, all that sort of stuff, or else I was going to die. That's as simple as the way the doctor put it to me, and that sort of really smacked me around. And that was August, late August, start of September. I said, and my identity was hit. I didn't have a job, no money coming in, nothing in life. The only thing I knew was drugs. I had great relationships. Yes, I did. Were those relationships the ones that I needed? Who knows? And then I just got to a position, I just slept for a few days. I was in a real bad place. Just like what's going on in my life, and then that was it. I found myself, man. I just went up to the top of the roof of the house that I was living at. It was a big house, it was three levels up. Was it really going to do anything? Who knows? But the idea around it was the fact that that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to end my life. And the realization of doing that and being in that position, it's a scary one, right? It's you're just hallucinating, shit's going everywhere, your heart's pounding through your chest, you just can't see, you got tunnel vision going on, and you just worked it through. And then, mate, so hours I was on top of this roof, and then I thought, I can't do this, right? And there's some higher energy got me down. People ask me what got me down. I don't know. I believe in higher energies in this world and how they work it, and I did. Got in and sort of structured it through, and then, mate, I woke up the next day, and my wife just said, "Man, you look like crap. What's happening?" Right? Pretty much, and that was pretty much. And she said, "I've noticed you." And then it's about understanding, not just the saying, "Okay, are you okay?" or anything like that. How you going? It's about noticing, right? It's placing an acknowledgement back on the person, so they take ownership over their conversation. So, she came to me and said, "You look like crap. What's going on? You all right?" And I was just like, "Yeah, no, I'm all right." And she said, and then she kept going, "You're okay. You're all right. What's happening?" And then it just got to a position, and I said, "This is what's happening." And then she just said, "What do you want to do with that?" And that's the biggest one, right? What do you want to do with it? And as I said before, you have those conversations, and then, okay, what do you want to do with this conversation? How do you want to do this? What do you want to do moving forward? So, as I said, rang me doctor. got into a conversation with them. Rang my rang my best mate's mum, who was like a second mum to me at the time. Um, got me to a position. She was in the health space, so I knew sort of she'd have some better advice. So I got to the doctor, went through the process, sort of arranged a psychologist that I didn't connect with, and saw a psychiatrist. We're going on a couple of months later, 2-3 months later, and then just gone bang, and I just went out through it and processed it out. Took away all my triggers of life, disassociated myself with a lot of people and a lot of things that I was doing. Went cold turkey on the gear, and started walking. Walking became my thing. I became the walking guy.
I like that. I like the walking guy. They're always good guys
I'm
to
the
pass.
walking guy, right? Yeah. It's like, who's this guy? Just walking, right? And always walking this guy. So, man, and I do, and I love and I appreciate what the walk does. And we do that in an event every year now. So, I launched a foundation many moons ago with a walk from Sydney to Melbourne, right? So that was my thing. The walking guy walking down the Hume Highway, doing his thing. But many people do it, part of that experience. And then every year now, we do an event called March with Me. We're actually getting hundreds and hundreds of people together walking through this year. It's a choose your own adventure style, Bailey, so anyone across the country can be a part of it. And it's just log in. It's a free event to be a part of, but it's just about sort of being able to raise those conversations and connect to people to make sure that we're all all a part of the cause. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, unreal. Nah, that is the experience of obviously that night would have just been a big thing, and getting through that obviously would have just been huge for you personally. To finish off with, Love Me, Love You, what do you want to sort of achieve with that personally and for everyone, and what does the next 5 years sort of look like?
That's deep, Bailey. That's deep, mate. What do we want to achieve, mate? And this is said, we're forever evolving. We'll be able to put, free. Our biggest goal is to be able to provide free counselling support services to a lot of people. Right, so more people to have these type of conversations. We want to be able to really instill our welfare warrior training program, which is a peer support training program that we deliver to people. We want to deliver that, to 10,000 people annually. Be able to do that and how that all looks, sort of reverse engineer how it all goes about it. But we just want to be known we want to be known as an organisation that creates positive impact for people. What does that look like? What are the tangible results around that? There are a lot of things that can't be really measured. So, the support services, and I say this in the nicest possible way. I want to be able to make mental health as a cause redundant 10 years time, because I don't think, and I want to get in society to make sure that we're all providing supportive structures to each other to make sure that we're instilling these conversations and it's a normal part of life. So, as I said, we just wake up every day, deliver our purpose, and make sure that people feel like they're never alone.
Yeah, unreal. It's been personally for me, like I said, going through a few things. When I was looking to get you on, this was huge, and I've loved the chat, mate. Your journey is unreal, and I can't wait to see what Love Me, Love You does in the future, helping everyone. So it has been a pleasure, and like for anyone out there, if you're struggling, don't face it alone. Like we've just had a chat now, like even for me now, I've obviously passed a few battles, and like you have as well. It's just amazing just to chat to someone about those things, and it can help you out a lot. So thanks for coming on, mate. I appreciate it, and yeah.
Appreciate it, Bailey, mate. Keep doing the good work you do, mate. As I said, creating conversations for people to make them feel like they belong. So you're doing a good thing, mate. Keep it up.
Awesome, mate. Thank you. Cheers.